A few months ago, I read a column in a Christian magazine that captured my attention. I printed it off and placed it on my desk. Well, I picked it up this morning along with several other articles and thought perhaps what was stressed in this one article was what I needed to share with our church family this evening. The writer of the article, Sandra McCracken, tells of a time when she boarded an early flight from Nashville, Tennessee, where she lives, to fly to Orlando to participate in a music gig. After boarding, she placed her guitar in the overhead bin. She grabbed a window seat, quickly turned up her ambient music in her headphones, and settled in for the flight. Sitting there, as she stared out her west-facing window, her mind began to dwell on some troubling circumstances in her life that needed to be resolved. She rested her forehead on the window and observed the dark sky as the plane ascended rapidly through the cloud cover. Inside the cabin of the airplane, with most of the window shades pulled, it was fairly dark, but slowly began to change over time. At one point, someone across the aisle raised their shade on their east-facing window, and an array of sunshine splashed across her face, and it lifted her spirit. But then she looked again out her window. It was still predominantly dark. While the shadow still lingered out her own window, out the other, it was blazing with light, for the sun had slipped over the eastern horizon. McCracken's experience shares an important lesson, I believe, for all of us. We Christians are all on a journey. We boarded the plane at an altar of prayer when we placed our faith in Christ and we confessed our sins to God. And the boarding pass says our destination is heaven. But between the times our wheels lift off one runway and touch down on another, the trip is filled with life. A life filled with many moments. Some of those moments, as McCracken noted, are dark moments. And like McCracken, as we can visualize ourselves with our own foreheads pressed up against the window during our flight of life's moments. Out our windows, we see the dark moments of physical troubles, emotional grieving, financial pressures, personal conflicts, and a host of other things. The darkness out our window is not a figment of our imagination. The darkness is a reality. And it's so easy to continually look out our own windows because that is what is so close to us. But I want to remind you, Burlington family, that there is another window along the journey. And out that facing east window is a ray of God's promises that can brighten the darkness out our own window. The darkness out our own window will never void out the promises of God. His promises are still true. We know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. We know His promise, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. The Lord will give strength unto His people, the psalmist said. The Lord will bless His people with peace. My grace is sufficient for thee. Thank God for His promises. And all along the journey in the cabin of time, as it were, no matter what we're facing, we all get to choose which window will capture our gaze. Out the one window, we could choose to dwell on our troubles, our trials, the things that need to be resolved in our life. Or we could look out the other window and dwell on the light of God's promises in the midst of our darkness. I think we all understand that we can't always change our circumstances, but we can change our focus. The Scottish preacher Robert Murray McCheyne once said, "For every look at yourself, take 10 looks at Christ." Maybe that could translate into us for this evening as, for every look out your own west-facing window of darkness, we should look out the east-facing window of God's promises 10 times. Maybe we should try that. Yes, our circumstances remain the same. Yes, life has its difficult times, but as we fly toward our heavenly destination, we can view these circumstances out either the facing west window or the facing east window. McCracken pointed out, no matter which window I looked out, all the while I was strapped safely in the window seat of that airplane. And all the while the pilot continued to steer the plane toward our destination. In spite of our shifting perspectives, she says, we have a destination. Listen, friends, I want to tell you on this Wednesday evening, it won't be long until our pilot will engage the landing gear. It won't be long until we have successfully touched down in a land where there is no night. But until then, my short and simple challenge to you this evening is to view life out the facing east window, which displays the light of God's promises. It won't change your circumstances, but it will change your perspective and your attitude.